I did a TikTok video yesterday on the use of the self-checkout and asked people, do they prefer to use the self-checkout or not use the self-checkout? The simple solution is, if you don't want to use the self-checkout, don't use the self-checkout. It's simple as that. Go stand in line and have your groceries or whatever rang up that way. Me, I prefer the self-checkout because it's a lot quicker. I can bag things the way I want. I can see what I'm scanning. And I can be out a lot quicker. And I don't mind. Now, if nobody uses self-checkout, everybody's going to stand in those long lines and going to work those poor cashiers to death. Somebody said in a comment section somewhere, well, if everybody stopped using the self-checkout, it would just force them to open more lines. That's not true. Because in order to open more lines, do you think that there's a room of cashiers in the back just waiting to be called up front to serve you? No. They're not there. The cashiers that are scheduled to run a cash register that day are there. That's it. Now, if they need more cashiers because people get petty and don't want to go through the self-checkout and they decide to open another lane, they're going to get that person from another department. Then that person's going to have to stop what they're supposed to be doing. Go up there, run a register, which you know they're not going to be happy about. You wouldn't be happy about it either. Until the line gets out, and then go back and try to catch up on their work before the end of their shift. And that's not fair. All because you're too petty to go through the self-checkout. Now, I prefer self-checkout. If you don't want to go through self-checkout, don't go through self-checkout. But I did the TikTok video yesterday, and most people agreed. Somebody called me a Karen, and so I had to correct him and say, I think you've got it backwards, because a Karen would be the one bitching about having to use the self-checkout and not having somebody subservient to her to check her out, and she's having to do it herself. That would be a Karen. Excuse me. And then somebody says, oh, I bet you call yourself a Christian. You know, where the hell did that come from? I'm just saying, self-checkout, use or not use. But I think it's petty when some people just, this is an excuse that some people say, and I've seen it in other comment sections. They'll talk about, oh, and you see it on videos too, and I think it's petty as hell. Oh, it's one of my pet peeves. They talk about, well, I have to use the self-checkout and ring myself up, and then they still want to see my receipt when I leave. Either you trust me or you don't. And then in the videos, you know, the person at the door who asked to see your receipt, in some of these videos, they'll say, no, you're not going to see my receipt. No, 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 you can't see my receipt. I have my receipt, but no, you can't see it. Why not? The person at the door is just doing their job. They're not there to harass you. They probably don't give a damn if you shoplifted or not, but they're doing their job. They have to ask you to see that receipt. And by saying no and keeping it going all the way out the door and causing whatever scene and ruckus and getting on this employee's nerves and making them crazy, you could have just showed the receipt. They would have done this right here. Have a good day. It's that quick. It's over with that quick. And chances are they're not even looking for anything on that receipt. But they have to ask. So, but the one thing about this is there's cameras on all these people doing that. So they're doing this for their ratings. And it's a shame when you do that just to have ratings and views that you have to piss off an employee. And then you wonder why people don't want to work. And then you don't want them to make a living wage. I think people in public service should make a lot of money. A lot more than what they do. I think they should make way above minimum wage because they got to deal with stupid idiots like that. And they got to deal with them all day. And the one thing that really irritates me is when they say the customer is always right. No. No. No, they're not. And you know they're not. And these people doing this shit, no, they're not. But they do it to try to see how much they can get away with. Somebody left a comment in my comment section that said, well, people get charged all the time with shoplifting when they go through the self-checkout simply because they forgot to ring something up or they scanned it wrong. Let's see. Simply because they forgot to ring something up. Now, I wonder what they could have forgot to ring up. Plus, that's why they want to see your receipt when you go out the door. You can avoid shoplifting. You can avoid those shoplifting charges altogether by showing your receipt, and then the cashier say, oh, you didn't ring this up. And you can say, oh, I forgot. And then you can go ring it up. No shoplifting charges. That would settle that. Or 2, how can you misscan an item? You have your scanning gun, or you simply run it past the scanner, or you have your scanning gun. Beep. How's that going to misscan? It's not going to give the wrong price. You can't misscan. And if the computer misscans, you're not going to go to jail. Some people will say anything and use any kind of excuse to try to get their point across. And these people, I'm not even going to say it. I'm not even going to say it because that would piss too many people off. So I'm going to keep that to myself. But I know what I'm thinking. Anyway, so what do you think about the self-checkout? You can leave your comment below. Do you prefer to use self-checkout? Do you prefer not to use self-checkout? Or are you indifferent and it really doesn't matter to you? Me and Joe went to Walmart on Wendover. And this was a couple of months ago. Now, they had like 3 or 4 lines open. But again, that's all they ever have open. And then they had the self-checkouts open. So, he wasn't quite finished yet. So I said, well, I'm going to go get in line. And I wanted to get in line instead of going through the self-checkout because I had a lot of stuff in my buggy. And when I have a whole lot of stuff, I would rather go through a regular line. I wasn't feeling well that day, and I didn't want to have to stand there and bag up everything myself. So I got in the regular line, and I stood there. And I stood there, and I stood there, and my line didn't seem to be moving anywhere. So I see this line over here next to me was shorter. So I ran over there and got in that line. And then the cashier was having problems, needed a price check. Well, nobody to do a price check, so she had to go do the price check. So that leaves me standing in that line longer. And I think I stood there all together in those lines about 30 minutes before I got rang up and got out. Joe still wasn't in line. So I thought, oh, Lord, I'm going to have to sit out here in the van forever before he gets out here. So I texted him. I said, I'm finally out of the store. I'm in the van. The lines are long. I stood 30 minutes. And before I even hit send on the text, here he comes towards the van. His buggy, his stuff in it. He comes up there. I said, I didn't see you in those lines. He said, I went through the self-checkout. He said, I went right up there and got out in 5 minutes. Had he stood in the lines, he would have still been in there for about another 20 or 25 minutes. So, self-checkout can be very convenient. Some people say, I'm not employed by Walmart. I'm not ringing up my stuff. Yeah, then don't go through self-checkout. But don't make it sound bad for the people who prefer self-checkout. So what do you prefer? Like I said, leave your comment. You do self-checkout, don't do self-checkout, or you're indifferent. And until then, bye-bye.